Good afternoon, Eric. It's beautiful here in Washington, nice and sunny. What's it like in New York today?
Well, it is somewhat sunny, and it is a little cooler than yesterday was gorgeous.
Uh,
Today is somewhat cooler, but it'll do.
it's
It,
getting there.
it was good to take a walk today.
Nice. Um, Eric, my question today has to do with the concept of first principles. It's been in the news a little bit lately because Elon Musk has been talking about how the success he's having with his rockets has to do with the fact that when he investigated trying to buy them for himself, the ones that were being made by other people and all that, he realized he needed to just wipe the slate, start from scratch, reason from first principles, and that he's been having some success with that. He talks about people often being kind of too lazy to do it. It's kind of funny. But anyway, I was wondering what your work in trying to re-envision the cosmos or help us re-envision the cosmos, how that connects with this concept of reasoning from first principles.
Well, let me put it this way. It could not connect any more than it already does. Uh, I think what Mr. Musk has discovered is that rockets evolved to where they are because of what their history is. We needed rockets and we weren't quite sure what we wanted to do with them. So you over design everything because don't know how anything is going to work out. And then after a while, you've got something which is a really robust thingamabob, and it does the job, and you say, oh, it's doing the job, leave it alone. And you forget that it's doing the job because you have 15 ways against the middle where you're trying to anticipate all of what was then unanticipated situations. And you're stuck with this. And if you want to buy an existing rocket, you're paying all of the money that went into the development of this, and that people are trying to get their money back on. Now, in science, we have exactly the same kind of mentality that is at work. It doesn't deal with money, it deals with how we proceed. Science started with a huge number of unknowns. And this was unknown, that was unknown. And then people started going off into their own specialty, just like the rocket people. Somebody wanted a rocket for this, somebody wanted a rocket for that. And they all started to develop their own little fields of expertise. And they have a perfect thing for the things that they were studying. But it doesn't match up with anything else. That's the problem, because other people went in other ways. And if you want something that brings it all together, you need to go back to first principles and say, okay, why were these things done? Why do we have 15 types of rockets? Why do we have 50 different theories of this, that, and the other? And most of them don't even jive with each other. It's basically the same things. And unless you say, now, wait a minute, let's call a halt and let's go back to first principles. What is our objective? And if our objective is to bring these pieces of science together, we better start from that. The people at the beginning couldn't start from that because they didn't have enough to start with. They were the explorers, who explored into the unknown, and anything they discovered was a big discovery because it had not been known before. We've gotten over that. We have descended in our knowledge of the cosmos from what you see is what is happening down to Einstein's theory. No, it isn't so. We've got to look at what happens to this in the structure of space, to getting down to what are the basic building blocks of science, of cosmos. they are strings, and you cannot reduce a string. So we have no other place to go.
Mhm.
We know what the bottom is. We know what the top is. We've got to fit the pieces that go on in between. It reminds me of an old, I don't know what you would call it, let's call it a story for lack of anything, about the wise men of Hindustan who were trying to figure out the elements of an elephant. And there are some who studied the leg of the elephant, and we can call them leg scientists, and so that studied the tusk, and we can call them tusk scientists, and those who studied the tail, who they thought was a rope. And they were all right, except the pieces don't fit. And the pieces don't fit because at the beginning, people made assumptions that were very reasonable in their time, but they don't hold up. Einstein, for example, set the world on edge. The universe doesn't have 3 dimensions, it has 4. Oh my God, 4 dimensions. Well, we can explain 4 dimensions. If you're on the surface of an ever expanding sphere, you cannot explain what is happening in 3 dimensions. You need 4. Oh, so it's 4 dimensions. So everything is 4-dimensional. Well, it isn't, because then you go on into string theory, and all of a sudden they say, now, wait a minute, if you really want the common elements, it's 6-dimensional. Oh, now there's 6 dimensions. So we have 4 here, 6 here. That means 10 dimensions. Now, forget about the fact that the 4 dimensions are completely different from the 6 dimensions, but it all sounds like a thing. And if you want to get a theory of the cosmos, you've got to start at first principles and say, okay, the people who saw these things in 1887, on the basis of what was known then, interpret this as an alternative way in which light propagates. Very reasonable assumption. Okay. Isaac Newton saw the Earth, and he saw something coming to Earth and accelerating. Well, the Earth is exerting a larger and larger force, that because he knows forces, if you add a force to something, it accelerates. This is accelerating, therefore that's what's going on. Very good idea. It even is usable to this day, because you make up these non-existent forces and you can solve the equations fairly reasonable. That doesn't mean that it's right. And let's go back to the rockets. The rockets have these features, these features, these features, these features. Which ones does he need for what he's trying to do? He's come to the conclusion that rather than get one of these things that's been through 15 iterations and you're paying for each iteration, build something that really, works for him.
Mhm.
And in a way, this is exactly what it is I'm trying to do. Let's go back, let's re-examine things, not in the light of what was known when this thing was first identified, but in terms of what we know now.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, the disparate pieces start to fit together.
Because otherwise we're trying to fit in, we're using enormous amounts of time, energy, whatever,
Yeah.
trying to fit in what we've been carrying. And it's sort of like, well, I've been carrying it. Don't make me put it down. I've been carrying it.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very good analogy. It's baggage that you're carrying, and
Put it down.
you're spending all of your time trying to figure out, why am I carrying this baggage? Well, you shouldn't be carrying it, because the things can't be as complicated as we've managed to make them. It's that simple. And everybody agrees there's got to be a way of simplifying this. Well, there's a way of simplifying this because everybody went their own merry way in making every part of the elephant more identifiable, but nobody worried about what the hell does an elephant actually look like.
There you go.
Very simple analogy.
Thanks, Eric. Great
You're
to
very
talk to you
welcome.
today.